What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Draft Yoda, where we're data-driven and prospect-focused. I am Draft Yoda himself, Bill Workman. I am your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd. Today, we're going to break down my projection of the top 8 teams in the ACC for the 2026 season. These rankings are based on projected wins and losses, roster talent, returning production, quarterback play, star players I believe will define the conference race. We're going to cut down the number to 8. We're going to count down the number from 8, to my projected ACC champion. So let's get into it. Number 8, we got the Florida Seminoles. I've got them projected as a 6-6 record. Now, if you follow college football for any time, seeing Florida State as a 6-6 probably feels strange. But right now, this feels like a program that's trying to recover from the chaos of the last 2 seasons. Good news, there's talent on the roster. You got running back Trey Wisner, who transferred in from Texas, who gives the Seminoles a legitimate offensive weapon and someone who can carry the workload every week. You've got a wide receiver in Deuce Robinson, might have one of the highest ceilings of any pass catcher in the conference. Defensively, James Williams and Jabril Rawls give Florida State a solid foundation to build around. I have their best win of the season coming against NC State. And I think that's the game that ultimately becomes the difference between their bowl eligibility and another disappointing season. The talent is there. The consistency is not. The question is, will they keep their coach if they go 6-6? But that's not for me to decide right now. Not in this one, anyways. That's why I have Florida State checking in at my number 8. Number 7, another perennial powerhouse, Clemson Tigers. I've got them going 7-5. It's probably going to be the most controversial ranking on my list, because when you think of Clemson, you think of an ACC powerhouse. National championships, NFL talent, elite recruiting classes. But that's not the Clemson that we have today. Every program has transition years. The players keeping Clemson competitive are outstanding. You've got TJ Moore, who is an exciting young receiver in the country. You got Brian Westcott on the other side, another explosive weapon. You got Sammy Brown at linebacker and Will Held at edge. Bringing some athleticism to the Clemson defense that honestly built that reputation. I have them beating Virginia Tech, but the problem is, who is their QB this season? And I think Clemson is simply getting passed by a few teams in the conference, skills-wise, coaching-wise, and talent-wise. Don't get me wrong, the roster has some talent on it, but I don't think it's quite ready to compete for the top-tier ACC. And in this year, if you're not, you're not going to be in the top 5, let alone where Clemson is at number 7. Number 6, I've got the NC State Wolfpack. They go 8-4 this year, and they're a real dark horse in this conference. The reason I think they win a couple of these games is the quarterback, CJ Bailey. He's an extremely intriguing quarterback, and especially in the ACC. And if he continues to improve every year like he has, he can be dangerous. And if he takes another step, that makes the whole team dangerous, especially when you bring in King Mack to help solidify your defense. And you've got players like Kenyon Jackson, who is an explosive playmaker, who's capable of making game-changing plays, combined with CJ Bailey. So you can't just treat CJ like a running quarterback. You have to respect the pass as well. I think one of their biggest wins is against North Carolina. It's a rivalry game. They will help cap off their season and get them the 8th win. And I think it's a building block. It's a building step win for them. That 8th win. And I think they outperform their expectations this season. But that was them at number 6. Number 5 is Virginia Tech. I guess bringing in James Franklin, made a big difference in Blacksburg. So this team is one of the more balanced teams in the conference, and everything starts with K'Ron Drones, the quarterback. When he's healthy, he's one of the most dangerous dual threat quarterbacks in college football. His ability to create outside of the structured offense makes Virginia Tech incredibly difficult to defend and makes him personally a threat every time they have the ball. Add in, you've got Marcellus Hawkins, Kamari Copeland, Caleb Spencer, that give the Hokies some impact players on both sides of the football. I think they have a big win against SMU this season that really sparks a flame in Blacksburg that we haven't seen in years. They're going to show that they deserve to be in the ACC conversation and even in the ACC championship conversation. And this is just his first year in Blacksburg. The reason I don't have them higher is because I think the teams ahead of them have more elite top end talent, and that's the big difference between 5 and the top 4 is that elite top end talent. But James Franklin's shown us he can recruit, and we need to be keeping an eye on Virginia Tech. Number 4, going to surprise some people, it's Georgia Tech, and honestly, I think Georgia Tech is probably one of the toughest teams to project. Because they play their best football, when they play their best football, they can beat anybody in this conference. The offense is going to be led by one of my favorite backfields in the country. Justice Haynes is an addition to the transfer portal that is a true game-changing running back. You've got a tight end in Chris Corbo, who continues to emerge as an underrated offensive weapon and truly one of my sneaky tight ends this year. Then you've got a rebuilt defense and a restructured defense. I think this is the year they beat Clemson, and I think that victory against Clemson becomes a statement piece, especially there in the Atlanta area, for Georgia Tech. 9 wins feels super realistic for them, and I think they have the talent to push into the ACC race. I just don't think they get there this year. I think this is the year that we look back in maybe 2 years and say, well, Georgia Tech really started building off of that year right there. Breaking into the top 3, I've got Louisville. It's one of the most complete teams in the conference. And the player everyone needs to know is Isaac Brown. I believe when Brown touches the football, he has the potential to be a touchdown on every time he touches the football. He is one of the best running backs in college football, one of the most explosive players, offensive players in America. Add him with a sneaky good tight end in Brody Foley, and there's some matchup nightmares for linebackers in this league. And then you add in Clev Lubin and Taylor Holloway on the defensive side. You have a defense that can really be disruptive. I think one of their biggest wins is against Georgia Tech. It helps separate, that victory alone helps separate them from the middle tier. And literally puts them in a game with the number 2 team that becomes a if we win, we're in kind of game. But They unfortunately lose and put them just on the outside of the ACC conference championship, moving in. Number 2 team is SMU. You will look at my graphic and you'll see these have been flipped. That's because I had to make an executive decision, and I think SMU beats Louisville and is the number 2 team and goes to the ACC conference championship. I think there's a strong argument that SMU is one of the most stable programs in the ACC right now. I think that begins and ends with Kevin Jennings, at quarterback. He's proven that despite some of his limitations, he can operate at a high level, and it gives SMU one of the best quarterback situations in the conference. Add that in, you've got Kendrick Raphael at running back, who's very balanced between explosiveness and, getting you those tough yards. Then you've got Joshua Bates and PJ Williams, who are going to anchor that offensive line. And like I said, I think their biggest win is against Louisville, and that is the difference that allows them to go to the ACC championship instead of being on the outside looking in. That game is one of the defining moments in the ACC title race. 10 wins is what I've got SMU at. And the only reason they're not number 1 is because the team sitting up at the top of this list is just on a different level than everybody else. Number 1 is the Miami Hurricanes. I've got them going 12-0. I have them being the number 1 team in the ACC. And honestly, I think the Hurricanes had a legitimate opportunity to compete for a national championship. That starts with Darian Mensah, who, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Mensah is one of the biggest transfer additions in the country, and I think he's a true Heisman contender and should be in Heisman consideration this year. 4,000 yards at Duke, 34 touchdowns, ACC Newcomer of the Year, and you rise to a Miami team where he's surrounded by significantly more talent. That should scare the conference. It should, because you're pairing him with, a running back in Mark Fletcher Jr., who is extremely physical and a dangerous, dangerous player. And then you've got Xavier Lucas, who has the potential to become one of the best defensive backs in the ACC, and Ahmad Moten Sr., who's going to anchor that defensive line, and be an impact player in the trenches for them this year. I think their biggest win is when Notre Dame comes to town, and Miami winning that game sets them on the path to be 12-0, a top 2 seed in the national playoff tournament, and undefeated in the regular season. They've got the most talented roster in the ACC. They've got the deepest roster in the ACC. And if you don't have Miami number 1, you really got to explain it to me, because I don't see anybody else that can challenge for number 1. But that's my projected top 8. Number 1, Miami. Number 2, SMU. Number 3, Louisville. 4, Georgia Tech. 5, Virginia Tech. 6, NC State. 7, Clemson. 8, Florida State. But I want to hear from you. Who do I have too high? Who do I have too low? I'm sure I'm going to have some Clemson fans that see this and think I'm crazy. Let me know. Do I have Florida State too high? I think there's a world where they fall off the cliff. Am I missing something? Can anybody beat Miami for the ACC championship? Drop your thoughts, comments down below. Let's have a conversation. If you enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep putting in the work here. And as always, I'm Draft Yoda, Bill Workman. I'm your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd, and we'll see you next time.